Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back in second session of today's lecture. Dear students, we earlier learned about the testing, measurement, evaluation, assessment, and its types, and comparison of between assessment and evaluation. What is the difference between test and measurement and evaluation? So uh, actually, it's about the basic concept of classroom-based assessment for teachers and students. In this slide, we are going to discuss about the issues in language assessment. Language assessment issues are based on the different philosophies, that is behavioral approach, integrative approach, communicative approach. So these three are separate philosophies, and they do have the separate issues towards language assessment. Let's learn first behavioral approach. In the middle of 20th century, teaching and testing were influenced by behaviorism, because teacher and students both are influenced by their own behavior. So all of their attributes, learning, teaching, conveying something, have impact of the behavior. That is why the social scientists of this era worked on it and found that the mid of 20th century teaching learning process is was influenced by behaviorism. Accordingly, testing focused sentence structure, translation from language one to second language, grammar and vocabulary items had influence of behavior. Integrative approach. In last quarter of 20th century, it was supposed that communicative competence is global. So around the globe, people are asking about competence in communication. That is why it was integrated in the system of learning. Thus, it cannot be captured in additive tests of grammar, reading, vocabulary, and other discrete modes of language, because communication or communicative concept was part and parcel of grammar, reading, vocabulary, and discrete points of language. So it cannot be apportionated from these. Closed test and distinction dictation was introduced for this purpose. Communicative approach. In this type of testing, focus was on communicative language, testing tasks, and learners were required to perform real-world tasks designed by the test designers. No doubt, test designers were from the field of communicating and learning. You may saw the experts from teachers. They believed that tasks designed needed to include strategic and pragmatic abilities in the construction of language testing. So, on the basis of pragmatic approach, they explored that it should be incorporated in construction of language tests. Finally, the major focus of our session is about classroom-based assessment. Earlier was just about knowing about the assessment, its concept, its kinds, its depth, and other its relevant components. So, coming towards the core factor of this session, we have to discuss the three different classroom-based topics, classroom-based assessment. The three topics are multiple intelligence, traditional and alternative assessment, computer-based learning. First, we discuss about multiple intelligence. It is comprised of 8 smarts: body smart, people smart, word smart, logic smart, nature smart, self smart, picture smart, and music smart. When we say body smart, it means body language. And when we say people smart, it means the interpersonal relation of people among themselves on the basis of human race, religion, gender, and their other demographies. Word smart, that is verbal linguistics, and the logic about waste is based on the mathematics, and naturalistics approach is the nature smart, because in language and literature, nature, to discuss nature is the usual component, and intrapersonal self smart individuals, it can be compared with the people smart with self smart, and interpersonal as compared to the intrapersonal. Picture smart is basically about visual, spatial, and musical smart is about liberal arts, music. According to Howard Gardner, intelligence is divided into 8 different components: spatial, musical, kinesthetic, naturalistic, linguistic, logical, interpersonal, and intrapersonal. Uh, the test, you know, we study, take test, pass it, and we forget that. Why we forget what we have had learned. That is the result of different inavailabilities in the learning. As the earlier we have discussed about the multi-intelligence, where there the multi-intelligence while learning and teaching is not taken into consideration, and just one component, that is the rote practice, is made again and again, then test the student is able to pass the test, but it happened with him because he had not gone through some activities, some natural approach. So without learning by doing and putting the efforts into practice, the learning based on only rote forget with the passage of time. How we can imagine or we can know about how it is done. There are some different styles of assessment. One is the traditional style and second is the alternative style. Traditional style is basically the conventional style usually going on in the institutions and the classroom. Alternative in that is some advance and based on the pragmatic approach. In traditional assessment, it is one shot standardized test, whereas alternative style is continuous and long term. Traditional is timed in a time bound and multiple choice format is there, whereas alternate assessment style is untimed and it needs free response format. Because in multiple choice format, the respondent is bound to share the thing within that provided time, whereas in untimed free response format, he or she has to go through in depth. Traditional style of assessment is normed referred, whereas alternative assessment style is criterion referred. Traditional assessment style is summative type examination, whereas alternative is ongoing, that is formative assessment type. Traditional is based on the oriented to product, whereas in alternative system of assessment, orientation is towards the process. Traditional is non-interactive, that is lecture method, whereas that is the interactive. Alternative is interactive, participative. For example, interview. Traditional assessment style fosters extrinsic motivation of the learners, whereas to foster the intrinsic motivation of the learner, the assessment persons have to go through the alternative style of assessment. Third one is computer-based testing. No doubt it has many of the advantages, but at the same time, multiple disadvantages are there regarding computer-based testing. For example, computer-based testing is easily administered test, whereas it has lack of security. Computer-based testing is self-directed, but there is possibility of cheating. It helps in practicing for standardized test, no doubt, but open-ended response, less likely oral production is absent in computer test. They have to go for subjective, multiple choice, yes or no, whereas the openness or open-ended response is absent there. Computerized test can be secured rapidly, no doubt. It's a major strength of it. The results or achievement score can be shared with the participants within hours, within minutes, whereas non-computer based testing scores takes a couple of days and weeks. Let's discuss about the principles of language assessment. What are the major principles on the basis of which language can be assessed? Because classroom-based assessment majorly based on the different criterias. So cardinal criterion for testing a test are practicality, mean the test being used for the assessment should be practical, reliable, valid, authentic. Therefore, when we say the test should be practical, it means it stays within the budgetary limits. No extraordinary expenses. It can be completed with an appropriate time constraints. No extra time is needed to be provided to the participants complete this test because it is calculated earlier. So on the basis of that specifications that it is administered. It has clear directions for administration, thus done smoothly, appropriately utilizes available human resources. No extra human resources are needed for any of the test that is known as the practical test. If extra human resources are needed, then the characteristics of test known as practical is absent. It does not exceed available material resources. Being practical, it is its major feature. All materials are pre-checked. Considers the time and effort involved for both design and scoring. So both of these components are part and parcel of this test. That is why it is known as practical test. Reliability. As you know, reliability of the nature of reliability is a test will be known as a reliable test if it is administered anywhere, anytime. It yields the similar results. It has consistency in it. So its consistent nature in its conditions across two or more administrations makes it reliable. It provides cleanly photocopied test sheets. Cleanly photocopied test sheets. It provides sounds clearly audible to everyone. If it is on the written format on the paper uh, uh, printed, so it can be cleanly photocopied, or it is in some audible mode, so it can clearly listen, or if it is in videos, so videos are clearly visible. No ambiguity or blurriness is there. It provides lighting, temperature, extraneous noise equal for all. It's very necessary to understand this sentence. Impairment in light and temperature and noise, if there is, it is equal for all person. It gives clear direction for scoring and evaluation and has uniform rubrics. That is why scoring and evaluation component is equal for all. A reliable test contains items, tasks that are unambiguous to the test takers. So it's much transparent, clear, up to mark, specific, and good enough by all means. Valid test. Actually, a test is valid only if it measures exactly the thing for what purpose it was used to be measured. If the test is framed for some certain purpose to measure, so it should measure that exactly. It does not measure any relevant material. It relies as much as possible on empirical evidence. Its validity is strengthened only when its empirical evidences are available. It involves performance that samples the test criterion. So its performance is based on the test criterions. It offers useful, meaningful information about a test taker's ability, and it is supported by theoretical rationale or argument. So if a test is comprised of the following 6 or 7 criterion, and if all these factors are well embedded in a test, then this test is called a valid test. This is the validity of the test. An authentic test. The authenticity of any of the tests is based on the following features. If a test contains the language that is as natural as possible, then the test is known as authentic test. Moreover, an authentic test has items that are contextualized rather than isolated. An authentic test includes meaningful, relevant, interesting topics. It provides thematic organization. The theme of the material to be analyzed or assessed do have some interconnection with each other. It should be well organized. It offers tasks that imitate real world tests. So, on the basis of following these five features, any of the test is known as the authentic one because all of these activities have to go through the classroom. So, if authenticity, validity, reliability, and practicability is kept in mind while making a test, so the test based on these criteria might be a good test because a language. So the classroom based assessment tests the features we discussed in detail and its components, that is multiple intelligence and traditional alternative assessments and computer based, and different approaches and philosophies on the basis of which any of the test can be made. I think so it has made enough comfortable to us to understand the concept of classroom based assessment. On the basis of this, we will go for some other relevant learnings of classroom based assessment as for teacher and student. Classroom process totally is about teaching and learning. That is why teaching and learning both are required to be assessed. Assessment towards students is to make some decisions relevant to their achievement, relevant to their improvement, relevant to their promotion in the next level. Similarly, the assessments are also necessary, which finally make the shape of an evaluation of a teacher. The reflections of the class leads towards the teacher's reflection, up to what extent he or she is efficient and plays good role towards the student's learning, and he or she is also upgraded towards his promotion on the basis of his evaluation. So both of these are part and parcel of each other, and these are the core activities of any of the classroom and the major business of any of the education institution is only this. So these are the things which frame the direction, which frame the parameters for rules of business of any of the educational institution. You guys are required to go through all these slides, try to understand, have in-depth understanding. If you do have any question, query, comment, you may talk on Google Meet. We can discuss it again. Thank you and Allah Hafiz.